Hello, members of UBL VGC. It is me, Hanner. I am the coach of the Grafton Granbulls, and we are here talking about the Grafton Granbulls Season 13 team. Oh, and by the way, if anyone wants to be on the channel, just let me know. So, this season, as you can tell, spoiled a little bit by the thumbnail, but I had a plan going in, and it was to utilize this Pokemon right here. It's not showing up. Doesn't show up there, so doing this in real time. This Mon right here, Iron Crown. I wanted to use Iron Crown and DD because I wanted to be, I don't know, not turning my brain on. And then the team ended up just being way, way, way better than I thought it was going to be. So let's get in right away. Our first pick, well, we were 8th pick in the draft. So we got 2 picks in a row because of snaking. We got Indeedee female. And we got Iron Crown. Yeah, we immediately got what we wanted. These two are very powerful. Indeedee, obviously, if you guys have played VGC in Regulation F, you would not be surprised to see these two together. Indeedee supplies Psychic Terrain, while Iron Crown gets Expanding Force. Iron Crown also has a wide slew of moves that can be helped to be boosted by Indeedee's Helping Hand to help pick KOs. But Indeedee is kind of the support Pokemon. Even though it's an S, and typically I like my S's to be such hard carries, this time is the exception. Well, you might be asking, why is that? Well, because Indeedee is one of those S tiers that super enables the rest of your team. That's kind of where I diverge a little bit from what I'm looking for. If it's able to buff the entire team and provide something to the whole team, of course I'm going to be drafting it. But Indeedee is interesting because it's got Follow Me, it's got Heal Pulse to help us recover HP. It has Trick Room this generation, which is incredible, and it even has some interesting moves like Charm, Imprison, and we can even run Psychic Terrain. Not to mention, if we see a matchup where they have a lot of Levitate Pokemon, we can run this, Fake Out. Fake Out will allow us to stop our opponents in their tracks and be able to move on with momentum. Iron Crown really is just that Pokemon that helps us win games immediately. 122 special attack off of booster energy is of course incredibly powerful, especially when you just go Timid. You just go Timid 252, 252. You can run max special attack, max speed, and you still get the booster special attack, which is really nice. 98 speed is a bit inconvenient. However, if we just go, I believe it's 176 is the minimum. 170, yeah. You can run 172 and then have 84 EVs for bulk. We'll just put it here in HP, just as an example. But we can do that and then end up getting the booster speed. With 172, we're still hitting 164 special attack, which is very nice. But we're also putting ourselves in a position where we are enabling our offense still. Not to mention, even when we are faster, if we don't have all that special attack that we would normally, we can just run Helping Hand of our Indeedee. Iron Crown typically will run one set. Expanding Force, Tachyon Cutter, Protect, Terra Blast, where you can use your Terra type to be the matchup coverage. Indeedee, however, cannot Terra as it is an S tier, but that's completely fine in my opinion. This is going to leak a little bit about the teams. I'm sorry, but I completely forgot to write down my team. I don't even remember the pick order, so we're just going to go like this. Okay. All right, now for our B tiers, I took, first off, Kilowattrel. Kilowattrel is an incredibly powerful Pokemon. Wind power is irrelevant, but Volt Absorb and Competitive, very interesting. Competitive allows us to switch in on Snarls or switch in on Intimidates and get +2 special attack. We also have 125 speed, which puts us at the top of the speed tiers with the other super fast Tailwind setters. That, of course, aren't booster energy or priority. This mon also has a decent move pool with stuff like Electro Web, Hurricane, Volt Switch, kind of stuff like that. We've got moves, but very often we're going to have to be running Terra Blast and a coverage type if we want to really make use of a super offensive Kilowattrel. But Kilowattrel, truthfully, is here because of this move right here, Tailwind. Not to mention Eerie Impulse being able to lower our opponent's special attack by 2 stages is huge. Very, very interesting and going to be very, very important. Our next B tier in terms of course, this is going in tier order, so if you got any Bs off of free points, we'll get there when we get there. But we have Haxorus. So, why did I take Haxorus? It's got only 97 speed. It's got 147 attack. We've got redirection with priority blocking. So, what we can do is run Clear Amulet Dragon Dance Haxorus. This is going to allow us to put on pressure like nobody's business. As you can see, this is a very damage type of team, but I think that's fine. If everyone else is going to bring teams that are slower game teams or just tempo teams, I think I can outmatch every single one of them. Now, let's talk about our C tiers. Because once we started getting into the C tiers, we really decided that we want to sort of start pivoting and adding options to a different type of team. Starting off with our first C tier, we have Umbreon. Umbreon, Inner Focus. So, I bet you're wondering, why Umbreon on this team? Of course, we deal with fighting types, but that doesn't justify Umbreon. So why are we running it? Well, it's because of these. Umbreon is a great defensive Pokemon, and that was perfect for what I was looking for with my team. Not to mention, this gen, it has actually decent coverage. We've got Alluring Voice, Dark Pulse, Psychic, Shadow Ball. We've got all of this. We've got Snarl. Very often, our set is going to be kind of a Snarl. It's going to be Snarl, Charm potentially, Foul Play more than likely, or we'll run something like this. Snarl, Light Screen, Foul Play, Reflect with the Light Clay. This is a super bulky, natural Dark type, so any priority taunt will be blocked, which means we can really, really get to the races. Now, we can be taunted normally, which is something I have to concede. Makes Umbreon not as good as I would like it. But it is interesting enough that I wanted to pick Umbreon up, because I think we can make something work with it. It really starts to establish a long game team with my setup, and I think that's very important. Not to mention, its speed tiers are on the lower end, which helps us kind of start to establish a bit of Trick Room. Next up, to start to establish a bit of that Trick Room, and honestly, a deceptively bulky Pokemon, we have Copperajah. Copperajah is another one of these Pokemon that I can slap on my team and start playing a slow game with. This mon loves the Life Orb because of Sheer Force. If we take a look at its physical moves, it's got a lot of moves that have secondary effects. We've got stuff like Iron Head, Rock Slide, Zen Headbutt, Rock Smash, stuff like that. Play Rough gets boosted. This thing has so much coverage as well that it can just tear it into anything. It can also run Heavy Metal to boost the power of its super powerful weight-based moves of Heat Crash and Heavy Slam. This mon is very interesting, and I've always been a very vocal hater of Copperajah, but I'm really hoping this season can help me get a new perspective on the Pokemon. All right, next up, we have our first of our D tiers before we get to our free points. And that is Diet Fluttermane herself, Miss Magius. So, why did I take Miss Magius? Well, for one, it's Diet Fluttermane. I think having a Diet Fluttermane is still not bad. We can use the Choice Scarf to kind of replicate what a booster set would be, but of course not as effective, and run stuff that Fluttermane would typically run. We can run Shadow Ball, minus Moonblast, of course, but we can run Shadow Ball, a Dazzling Gleam, Icy Wind, and then something like Thunderbolt. Not to mention, this thing has good offensive stats just in general. It's got a vast amount of coverage for special attacks, and while our opponents might have higher special attacking Pokemon, and while there are truthfully other Pokemon that deal more damage than Miss Magius that I could have taken, Miss Magius does have ways to help slow down the game as well. We have the capacity to actually just, instead of running Thunderbolt, run Trick. So Shadow Ball, Dazzling Gleam, Icy Wind, Trick. Then we can also run something like Nasty. We could run a Nasty Plot set. We could run a Memento set that we use in the beginning of Trick Room. We send this thing out with Scarf Memento. We Memento the opposing Pokemon so it misses the crucial kills on our Trick Room setters. Though we don't really have Trick Room setters, so don't expect that too often. Then we also have Skill Swap, which is able to pass our Levitate over to Pokemon weak to ground, such as Copperaja and Iron Crown. Well, not Iron Crown, but Copperaja, and in a future pick, Tauros Paldea Blaze, which was spoiled by the thumbnail, so I don't feel too bad about it. But this thing also has a pretty crazy amount of just supportive options. We've got Will-O-Wisp due to it being a ghost type. It's got Imprison. It's got Screech. It's got Rain Dance, Snowscape, and Sunny Day. This thing has got a lot, and I'm really, really excited to get to use Miss Magius. After all, my championship-winning team back in Season 8 had Miss Grievous. It had Miss Grievous, but I think Miss Magius could potentially be an interesting alternative, and worst case, if it doesn't work out, we just switch for Miss Grievous. All right, starting off with our free Pokemon, you saw it on there. If you were paying attention, we have this Pokemon, Enamorus. So, why Enamorus? It's a big question. Why Enamorus? There are better fairy types, especially even at the point when I drafted Enamorus, there was better fairy types. And it's a flying type. However, I really wanted to, we can run Stellar Terra with Superpower, Terra Blast, Play Rough, stuff like this. We could run this. This is a good set. We could run Special with Earth Power. We have Contrary, so we can use that to deter Intimidate. We can use that to deter Snarls. This Mon is really just a big, crucial part to deterring stuff. Not to mention, it is a Fairy type. So as you can see, we have 2 Steel types, a Dragon type, but we didn't have a Fairy at this point. Enamorus helps to fill that role, and I do believe that having our cores is very important. But Enamorus isn't just an offensive Pokemon. It also has some pretty decent supportive abilities. It's got access to Tailwind, got access to Taunt, and Imprison. So we can send this thing out potentially before Indeedee ever touches the field and imprison Misty Terrain and Grassy Terrain. After all, there is a Whimsicott team in our division, which could potentially be a little bit problematic for our Psychic Terrain Pokemon otherwise. But it has a lot. That's why I felt super comfortable using 100 points on Enamorus. Next up, we have the Pokemon I mentioned in the earlier section. If I can type. Oh my goodness. I accidentally hit print screen. Are you kidding me? We have this thing. Tauros Paldea Blaze. When I was initially going through and making my plan, I had Cinderace in this slot. And while I do think Cinderace is a very powerful Pokemon, especially now that it's dropped at the B tier, which gives it a lot more potential usability, I think I like Tauros Paldea Blaze a little better because it gives me access to Intimidate. Not only, though, does this thing give me access to Intimidate, it gives me access to Chew, which lets us play a bit of a more defensive role with Tauros Paldea Blaze, but it's also a more defensive Pokemon. This is another Pokemon that's a fire type, so it has access to Will-O-Wisp. Well, it's another Pokemon with Will-O-Wisp. It's got fire type stomping at Tantrum, potentially if we were running Rock Slide and Rock Slide misses, we can go for that. We have high horsepower, we have close combat, we have Drill Run, Earthquake, we have so much at our disposal with this Pokemon that just felt right to pick it up. It does so much, it's got good stats, it's Intimidate, it's a decent speed tier, it really helps shore up our weaknesses as well. This helps to establish a Fire-Water Grass core, which we are going to, over the course of our free points, establish even further. And we're going to do that by getting a little bit bulkier again with Vaporeon. So, why did I take Vaporeon, you might ask? Well, bulky waters are just very good in draft. You really can't go wrong just by picking a bulky water, and at C tier, Vaporeon is the best of those cheap bulky waters. While it may be a bit slow with 65 speed, this astounding 110 special attack and 130 HP means it really does actually have more power than it would initially seem. Not to mention, it has more natural coverage now that it has Alluring Voice. So we can run something like Alluring Voice, Icy Wind potentially, or Ice Beam, Scald potentially as well. Shadow Ball, Muddy Water, it's got a lot of moves that potentially could be useful. We could also potentially run Terra Blast, but I think that's very often going to be a throw. But it's not to say that we couldn't run something like a Acid Armor Calm Mind set. We also have Haze, we have Fake Tears, we have Roar, we have Substitute, we have Yawn, we have Wish, we have Baby Laws, we have Charm. This thing has a lot. It's just like Umbreon. These EV forms have a lot of options, and I really do not feel bad about taking this. Not to mention Water Absorb, giving us a switch in to water types, potentially when we have Tauros Paldea Blaze out on the field, or really any of our Pokemon, we can switch it in and gain a lot of life back. That is very important on a team like this, that can run super aggressive, but can also run a more balanced style of game. Last up, this is our final Pokemon, and it is Meganium. Now, Meganium is one of the worst starter Pokemon in the game, and I'm not going to try to convince you otherwise. 80 HP, 100 defenses isn't bad. 80 offenses isn't... It's pretty bad. But it's got some things going for it. We can potentially run a Leaf Guard set with Sunny Day, Kilowattrel. It's Sunny Day, right? No. Not Kilowattrel. One of you gets Sunny Day. I think you do. We could run like Sunny Day and Emrys, I guess. Yeah, we could run Sunny Day and Emrys, Sunny Day. It's Mages. Like, we could run Mons that set up Sunny Day, which lets us get Leaf Guard unstopped and run Eve. Honestly, this is the set it's going to be running most of the time. Light Clay Leaf Guard. Or Light Clay Overgrow. It doesn't really matter. Technically, Leaf Guard is better, just on the rare case our opponent does decide to go for some Sun stuff. But this Mon actually does have a decent amount of coverage. It's really unfortunate that its special coverage is a lot bit underwhelming, but it has 82 attack as well. Both of its offensive stats are very relative, so we could just decide to go and run physical. This actually opens up our doors a lot for coverage. When using a physical set, we could use something like Knockoff and Seed Bomb, as well as Reflect and Light Screen. If we potentially wanted to go with a special set, we could run Giga Drain. We could run something like Giga Drain Leech Seed. This would be able to give us options into dealing with our opponent. But this thing does not have, the super powerful status. So that's a bit annoying. It does have Heal Pulse, and I cannot stress enough, having Pokemon with Heal Pulse or heal pulse equivalence is always super huge. I don't think I need to really state that. So this was just a brief look at my team, and it was admittedly a little bit rambly, but that's okay. But yeah. So yeah, this is it. This is it for the team. PRs are going to be recorded sometime next week, just because I work all weekend. But we're going to be getting to that point eventually. Anyways, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I cannot stress enough how much I appreciate you guys. So, see you guys with PRs. Potentially we'll have team reports for some other people if they, want to be on the channel, if they want to upload the content. That's completely fine by me. But yeah, see you guys for PRs.